Good morning, and whether you're joining me live or you're catching up on this later or you happen to have come across it, welcome to this first of the Dear Mrs. Duckie Facebook lives videos, where I'm going to attempt to try and help you solve some of your crafty questions and conundrums. So I'm reliant on you messaging me or following the link to pick up the little form to fill it in, and to let me know what are your questions and what are your conundrums. And the first question that we're going to be aiming to solve is a question about masking. Can I remind you how, why, when to do masking, what masking is in our card making? So that's what we're going to have a bit of a play with this morning, is a bit of masking. And you'll have seen me perhaps do this before, but rather than do it as a part of a bigger project, I'm just going to be focusing on the whole idea of masking. So what is masking? Masking is basically when we want to prevent part of a stamped image from appearing on our finished project. For whatever reason, and there are various reasons why we might want to prevent that from happening. I just had another thought, was looking to see if I can find another random something. Yes, that will do. That random something will be absolutely fine. Okay, so why would we want to mask? Now I'm going to find just a scrappy little piece of card here. I've got lots of oddments of Whisper White waiting to use up. This is a very scrappy little bit of card. So if I wanted, so I've grabbed here the timeless tulips. I thought, we're coming up to spring, let's have a few tulips. If I wanted to put one tulip on that piece of card, that would not be a problem at all. Let's just grab some blocks. Let's put a tulip on each. Daddy tulip, mummy tulip. Is that your question, Caroline? A question about how I come up with ideas? Well, perhaps I'll have a think. I might have to think on that one and come back. But a lot of it is about just years of making cards and doing things, and so you have all of these ideas floating in your head. But I will come up with an idea for that one. So that will be another one, is where to get some inspiration from. Okay, don't necessarily want that one. Let's have this one. And let's assign these tulips a colour for now. We'll have baby yellow, mummy pumpkin pie, and daddy in poppy parade. Now imagine that we wanted one tulip on there. That's not going to be a problem at all. We're just going to stamp one tulip. But if we wanted to put a whole little bunch on there and we wanted them to sort of overlap each other, then we start to have a problem, because what you get is a mess, basically. So what ideally we want is that we don't want this bit and we don't want this bit showing. We just want this tulip and then these behind it. So that is where masking comes in. That's one of the reasons why you'd want to mask something, because you want to make an arrangement and you don't want this overstamping, because it can be unsightly. And even if you're going to do just the lines and you're then going to colour in, it's a nuisance. You don't want it. So that's where we use some masking. So the first thing you have to ask yourself is, hi Glenda, what are the images that I want to be at the front? Now actually on this one we might quite like the small ones at the front and the big one at the back, and I think that's what we'll do. So what ones do we want at the front? What ones do we want at the back? So I've got a bit of a card piece here not necessarily trimmed it down, I've just grabbed it out of my box. So I think we'll go for the smaller images at the front. So I'm going to start with this pumpkin pie one, and we'll have that here, and then we'll come in with the Daffodil Delight one, and we'll have that perhaps here. Now we can put both of those on without them overlapping, that's not a problem. But now we want the big red one in the background. Now this is where you're going to want to take something like a post-it note. You can use bits of paper or whatever. You could just take a piece of paper and put a little bit of Tombow on the back, leave it to one side to dry, and then that will become tacky. But if you have post-it notes, and most of us do, these are your best bet. So either a standard post-it note or the creme de la creme. You can actually get masking paper, but oh, these have stuck together. The creme de la creme is a post-it note like this that is actually sticky all over the back. Now you're not going to be able to feel that, but if you can see this strip on the bottom here, this strip there is not sticky, but the rest of this post-it note is all sticky. So if you can get yourself some all over sticky post-it notes, they're even better for masking, but a standard post-it note will work. And what you're going to do is you are going to stamp those images on your post-it note, and then you're going to cut them out. And voila, here is some I have made earlier, because what you do once you've done that is you pop them in the box with the stamps, and you continue to use them until the point that they totally disintegrate. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay those post-it notes, cut out post-it notes, over the top of my stamped images. So what this means is that when I go and stamp in a minute, just line that up. When I stamp in a minute, my image is going to stamp partially on the post-it note and partially on the card. So let's do that. About there, I think. That good press down. Oh, pressed it down so much I've got ink on the corner. We'll ignore that for now. So now I've got, you can see where it's stamped partially round here and partially onto the card. I'm not going to remove those masks just yet, because let's actually bring in my mask that I've cut out for my big tulip. Let's put that in there, because now we've got like a second layer. So these are right in the front, these are in the middle, and then we're going to bring in a leafy stamp. And take our Granny Apple Green. So we don't need to worry about any of this ink showing on the finished project, overlapping. We're just worrying about where we want it to be. On our finished project. So now that looks completely and utterly weird, but all will be well. Let's take some of our stems. You might have Sam singing in the background. He doesn't know that we're live. There we are. He's not going to give you any more musical accompaniment, which is a shame. He has quite a good voice, actually. Right, let's stamp some stems just here. And we'll have one. I have got a curly stem somewhere, but we'll just leave it at that for now. Let's pop in another leaf coming off the side here. Right, just because. Okay, so now we have a really random looking thing, but if we start to peel off these post-it notes, you'll be able to see, it will emerge, that we have our tulips with these in the front, this one in the middle, and these at the back. And that's all created. That would be a bit wonky, but we'll say we're not doing a brilliant project, we're just looking at the technique. So that's one of the ways in which you might want to do masking. It might be, and you can do this with things stacked on top of each other. You can do it with whole little, you know, great big floral arrangements, and just cut out as many little post-it note images as you want. But as I say, then just pop them back in your case. You only need to do that once, really. Unless you completely wear them out. So that's one reason you might want to do some masking, is in order to arrange projects like that. Now, another reason you might want to do some masking is if you are going to do a sentiment of some kind, or even a big stamped image, and you don't want all of it to show. So let me peel that off of there, and peel that off of there. I've got a sentiment here that says best grandkid ever. Now obviously I have all of the best grandkids ever. But it might not be them that I'm sending this card to. So what I'm going to take here is a piece of low-tack tape, masking tape. You can use washi tape, whatever. And I'm going to cover up the part of this sentiment that says best grandkid. So now I have a best and an ever showing, and I've tucked it down in the side of those spots. So just best ever. Now I'm going to ink this up. Let's ink it up in Poppy Parade. So I'm going to ink that up. Now what you must do, and I will show you why, you must take this tape off. If you don't take that tape off, when I stamp on there, that is what happens. So you get this sort of tape, but you can see inky blobby mess, but you can start to see that word coming through because it presses through on your tape. So what you need to do is, let's ink that up again, you need to take this tape off, because in taking the tape off you're taking away the source of the ink, and then we can stamp it and we get best ever. So now we can come in there and let's have a look. I've just grabbed this stamp set that's got different members of the family on. That one would fit quite nicely. You could have had wife, but let's have this one. Obviously, if the word was too long and you couldn't fit it in, you could chop it up, but then you wouldn't need to mask it. You just chop the centre piece out. But we've made that best niece ever just by doing a bit of masking, a bit of stamp magic. So there's a second reason why you want to mask. It may be that the sentiment that you've used, you might not want to have it all on your project. Let me just grab, I'm going to grab a circle punch. Let's use, I'm not going to use that actually because that is a thick bit of Whisper White. I don't really want a thick bit of card. In fact, I'm just going to punch a bit of one of my background sheets. I've just punched a circle there. Let's turn this over. So again, that idea, hi Jane, we're just playing with some masking. So we're not really making projects as such, big projects. We are exploring how, where, why you might do some masking. Right. I've got one of our really big background stamps here. We'll stick with the same colours. This is the birch stamp. Seems to have picked up a few hairs. Let's ink that up. Got a bit of a circle in there, so again I'm going to be preventing this stamped image from going onto our final project just by having that circle there. And obviously you could die cut any shape you like. Let's give that a good press down on there. I would often use my stamper artist for these sorts of projects. Let's take that away. And we have a circle in the middle, and in our circle in the middle we could, I don't know, stamp all sorts of, let's just put a tulip in the middle, there we go. You could stamp an image in the middle, you could stamp a greeting in the middle. Obviously I doubt that you'd want a poppy parade birch background, but you might want one. But that just gives you a space in the middle, and that's just simply by taking your cutout shape and laying that in the middle. And obviously you don't need to do that with a big piece. It could be a small piece, and it could be that you just want to create a little bit of a frame. Let's dive back into my scrap. This is a good way of using up all my scrappy bits of Whisper White, because you also might want to do it the other way round. Now then, somewhere I've got here a couple of pieces. This is quite a stiff bit of plastic that I've cut this particular circle out of, or I've got a piece of card here that I've cut an oval out of. So you can go the other way round. It might be, let's go with that oval, it might be that it's the outside bit that you don't want to get your stamped images on. So that's the bit that you're going to mask. It may be that the bit that you want to have your images on is the bit in the middle. Now obviously, you do have to be careful with this, because you do have to press quite well coming up to these edges, and that's why you're probably better off with paper than you are with card. But you get the general idea, is that you'll then be left with your oval with your images in the middle, but not around the outside. So let's have a think. Masking. We have masked to create, and this is probably where you'll use masking to the greatest extent, to create a sort of image of lots of flowers or leaves or piles of animals, or whatever images you're using. You want lots of them, but you don't want them to be completely on top of each other in a mess. You want them to sort of stack up beautifully. Well, in that case you're probably going to want to use post-it notes and create masks. So pick which ones you want in the front first and stamp those, put post-it notes on them, stamp your next layer. If you want to go for a third layer, put a post-it note on there and stamp your third layer. So masking in that respect. We did our masking of our sentiment, so we used our low tack tape to cover up that centerpiece, inked it up, took the tape off, that's the most important bit, then stamped it, and then stamped another sentiment in the middle to sort of change our sentiments around. So that's when we don't want a bit of a stamp to be showing. We've also sort of created a mask that way with by having a hole in the middle, and somewhere we did it the other way. Here we go. So we did it that way. It's on the back of here, isn't it? And we also used a circle to create our gap in the middle to mask that way. So masking the outside, masking the inside, masking the images, and masking a sentiment. So hopefully that has given you a whistle stop tour to masking, how you do it, why you do it, and when you would do it. So I hope you found that helpful. If you have any crafty questions, any conundrums, if you have a stamp set that you have no idea what to do with it, or a product that you brought and you can't remember why you brought it and what you're going to do with it, message in, let me know, and Mrs. Duckie will be back to try and solve your crafty questions and conundrums. See you soon.